When you hear the words project risk, what pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably a spreadsheet, right? A long list of all the things that could possibly go wrong. But honestly, that view is just flat. Today, we're going to see why project risk isn't a list at all. It's something way more dynamic and way more central to your project success.
So let's just ask it straight up. Is risk really just a checklist? Something you create once and then, file away? Absolutely not. Treating risk like that is kind of like looking at a car engine and only seeing a list of parts. You're completely missing the point, which is the dynamic interaction that actually makes the thing go.
A much better way to see it is as your project's central nervous system. Seriously, it's not some separate function tucked away in a corner. It is the hub that connects absolutely everything. It's constantly sending and receiving signals from every part of the project, keeping the whole system alive and ready to respond.
All right, so where does this nervous system connect first? Well, it plugs right into the project's core constraints, that classic iron triangle of scope, schedule, and finance. And believe me, risk is woven deeply into all of them.
And what's so fascinating here is that this is not a one-way street, it's a two-way conversation. Take scope, for example. A new risk might pop up and force you to change what you're building. But on the flip side, changing your scope can be your best strategic move to handle a risk. It's the same deal with a schedule. Sure, risks cause delays, but that's exactly why we build in schedule reserves to absorb those hits. And with finance, yeah, a risk can cost you money, but smartly handling that risk can actually uncover opportunities that boost your entire return on investment.
So the key takeaway here is this. Spending on risk management is not a cost, it's an investment. You're not just preventing bad things from happening, you're actively making good things happen, like better safety, better compliance, and a whole lot more confidence. You're essentially buying a more predictable and ultimately more successful outcome for your project.
Okay, we've covered the technical side of things, but what about the human element? This is huge, and it brings us right to the critical stakeholder connection.
This quote just nails it. It completely reframes how we should think about stakeholders. They aren't just a passive audience you report to. No, they are your single best source of risk intelligence. Think of them as your eyes and ears on the ground, seeing things from perspectives you just can't.
They're the ones who give you those crucial insights you'd totally miss otherwise. They help make sure your whole process actually meets their expectations. They might even have a better idea for how to assess a certain risk. But maybe most importantly, when a stakeholder raises an issue, listen up. It is often the first puff of smoke signaling a much bigger fire underneath, a risk that you need to get on, like right now.
So here's a really practical piece of advice. Stop treating your issue log and your risk register like they're two separate things living on two different planets. They're not. They are deeply connected, two sides of the very same coin. An issue that a stakeholder brings up today is very often the seed of a major project risk tomorrow. You have to review them together, always.
So we've connected risk to the project's constraints and its people. Now let's zoom out even further to the entire system. We're talking about how risk plugs into bigger things like governance and resources.
First up is governance. And put simply, you can just think of this as the official rulebook. It's the framework, the rules of the road, for how your organization says it's going to handle risk, and it makes sure everything you do lines up with the big picture goals.
And this part is absolutely critical. You can come up with the best risk response plan in the entire world, but if it's not aligned with your governance structure, you have zero authority to actually do it. Governance is what gives your plan teeth. It's the official green light that lets you take action, whether that's to fight off a threat or to jump on a new opportunity.
Now, the other big piece of this system is resources, and the connection here is really a double whammy. First, just the act of competing for people and for budget against all the other projects. That's a risk in and of itself. Second, once you actually get those resources, you have to manage them. And any kind of shortage, or even having too much of something, becomes a whole new risk that you have to plan for.
Whew! Okay, we've looked at all the individual connections. Now, let's put it all together. Let's see the full dynamic picture. This is where that whole central nervous system idea really comes to life. Every single piece we've talked about, scope, schedule, finance, stakeholders, governance, resources, they are not separate items on some boring checklist. Not at all. They are all spokes, and they are all connected directly to that central hub of risk. A change in one immediately sends a ripple, a signal, through that hub to all the others. Let's just walk through a quick example so you can see it in action. Okay, step one. A key supplier has a problem, creating a resource shortage. Then what happens? Bam! Step two,
Your project timeline gets delayed. That's a direct hit to your schedule. Next, step 3. Your stakeholders start getting nervous and raising concerns. And finally, step 4. You need to get a response authorized through the proper governance channels to get things back on track. You see that chain reaction? It's a perfect feedback loop.
So, this is it. This is the ultimate takeaway. Effective risk management is not a static thing you do once. It's a living, breathing, dynamic process. It's not about checking a box. It's about constantly monitoring all those signals coming from every part of the project and having the agility to respond in real time.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about for your own projects. Are you just managing a list, or are you leading a living dynamic system? Because the difference between those two approaches, well, it's everything. Thanks for joining this explainer.